Have you ever noticed how certain numbers seem to mysteriously repeat throughout history? Among them, the number 40 stands out in an almost supernatural way. It appears in sacred texts, ancient mythologies, historical events, and even in scientific phenomena. But why? Coincidence or something much bigger? Imagine a hidden code, something that has been used for millennia to mark periods of transformation, trials, and rebirth. For centuries, different civilizations have attributed an almost mystical meaning to the number 40. But the most intriguing part is that these cultures had no contact with each other. How is it possible that they all came to the same conclusion? If you think this is just a coincidence, wait until you see how the world's major religions view the number 40. Are we facing an ancient pattern passed down through the ages? Let's explore how this number became a sacred symbol in spiritual traditions that shaped humanity. If there's one field where the number 40 has an almost omnipresent presence, it's spirituality. Since ancient times, this number has been associated with trials, transformation, and contact with the divine. In the Bible, we have the famous 40 days and 40 nights of Noah's flood, an event symbolizing purification and renewal. Moses spent 40 days on Mount Sinai before receiving the 10 Commandments. And Jesus, he fasted in the desert for 40 days before beginning his ministry. In Islam, 40 years is the age when Muhammad received his first revelation. There are also the 40 days of sacred mourning after someone's death. In Hinduism and Buddhism, cycles of 40 days are considered essential for spiritual purification. But what makes this number so special for religions that arose in different parts of the world? Is there a hidden message in these patterns? What do these sacred texts know that we have yet to discover? To find the answers, we need to dive deeper, exploring the mythologies and ancestral symbolism surrounding the number 40. Before we continue, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, because in the upcoming videos, we'll be exploring even more mysteries you won't want to miss. Long before the great organized religions, ancient civilizations already saw the number 40 as something powerful. The Egyptians, for example, believed the human soul took exactly 40 days to complete its transition to the afterlife. A similar concept appears in Judaism and Christianity. The Greeks also had a fascination with 40. In mythology, 40 was often linked to cycles of tests and heroism. It is said that the legendary Atlantis existed for exactly 40,000 years before mysteriously disappearing. Coincidence? Perhaps. But what if it's not? And there's more. The Babylonians and Sumerians, two of the world's earliest civilizations, used the number 40 to measure celestial periods and astrological events. For them, this number had a direct connection to the gods and the cosmic cycles that governed humanity. Is this pattern etched into the very structure of the universe? Or could it be a hidden message left by the ancients to guide us? To better understand this connection between the number 40 and the cosmos, we need to explore something even more surprising: the scientific mysteries behind this number and its hidden presence in nature. If you think the number 40 is just a religious or mythological symbol, get ready to change your mind. It also appears in an intriguing way in science and nature. In biology, for example, the human body goes through regenerative cycles that last about 40 days. In astronomy, Mars takes approximately 40 days to complete one of its most significant orbital movements. And in climatology, some of the most drastic changes in atmospheric patterns occur over periods of 40 days. But the most impressive part is how this number shows up in mathematical studies. The number 40 is related to certain number sequences that repeat in natural structures, from the growth of seashells to the formation of storms. Could this number carry a hidden code embedded in the very essence of the universe? Or did the ancients know something that modern science is only now beginning to uncover? Did you already know these facts? Drop a comment if you've heard of them. Let's talk. The number 40 doesn't just appear in sacred texts and mythologies. It's also deeply rooted in historical events and cultural traditions throughout the centuries. But why 40 days? Why not 30, 50, or 100? What makes this period so special? In the Middle Ages, quarantines were imposed to contain plagues and epidemics, a practice that comes from the Italian word quaranta, meaning exactly 40 days. The doctors of the time believed this was the necessary amount of time for a disease to manifest its symptoms and for the body to undergo purification. Interestingly, modern science confirms that many viruses and infections follow a cycle of approximately 40 days. In expeditions and explorations, sailors often had to endure 40 days of trials before reaching solid ground. Even Napoleon Bonaparte used a period of 40 days to reorganize his troops after his exile on the island of Elba. And there's more. Many indigenous cultures perform rituals of isolation and renewal that last exactly 40 days. It's a recurring pattern that becomes impossible to ignore. But what could be the explanation? Is it a biologically programmed time for human transformation? Or is there hidden knowledge passed down through the centuries? What if this 40-day cycle is just a fragment of a larger pattern that affects not only our bodies, but also our minds? The science of psychology might give us some surprising clues. If you've ever tried to change a habit, you've probably heard that it takes about 21 days to create a new routine. But recent studies indicate that the ideal time for lasting changes is surprisingly 40 days. Neuroscientists have discovered that the human brain needs, on average, 40 days to reconfigure thought and behavior patterns. In other words, it's the necessary time to break old habits and form new neural pathways. This may explain why so many spiritual and historical traditions use this period as a time for transformation and purification. And it doesn't stop there. Psychology also suggests that 40-day cycles might be linked to deep patterns in the collective unconscious. Some therapists recommend 40-day periods of separation after the end of relationships, claiming this is the time needed for emotions to reorganize and a new mental state to be achieved. Could this mean that the number 40 is not just a cultural coincidence, but a reflection of something much greater? Something that may be embedded in our biology and mind? But if this number has so much power over the human psyche, does it also influence the course of history? Let's explore some real-life cases and intriguing coincidences involving the number 40. Let's continue. But before we do, I noticed you haven't left a like yet. If you're enjoying the content, go ahead and hit the thumbs up. Now things are about to get really disturbing. Throughout history, significant events have occurred under the influence of the number 40. Let's take a look at some examples that might make you rethink the meaning of this number. In 1940, one of the most decisive years of World War II, Hitler launched the offensive against France exactly 40 days after a series of secret strategic meetings. In another case, the legendary Apollo 11, which took man to the moon, had a crucial phase of its mission that lasted precisely 40 hours. And what about prophecies? Nostradamus, one of the most famous seers in history, wrote several predictions revolving around cycles of 40 years. He mentioned that events of great impact on humanity tend to occur within these periods. Another intriguing fact: many dictatorships and empires fell exactly 40 years after coming to power. Is it just a coincidence, or is there a hidden pattern that influences historical cycles? But what happens when we look at the universe itself? Could this 40-day, 40-year, or 40-cycle pattern also manifest in the cosmos? The answer may be even more surprising than we think. If there's one place where numerical patterns manifest undeniably, it's space. And guess what? The number 40 shows up there too. For example, the planet Mars experiences cyclical dust storms that occur every 40 days. Additionally, some of the most intense meteor showers on Earth follow a pattern of approximately 40 years between their strongest peaks. But perhaps the most impressive discovery is that certain rotations of celestial bodies, such as moons and asteroids, follow cycles of 40 hours, 40 days, or multiples of 40. What does this mean? Could it be a cosmic pattern embedded in the very structure of the universe? Or is it possible that ancient civilizations, which had an advanced understanding of astronomy, noticed this pattern and incorporated it into their cultures and religions? If the number 40 has already proven to be recurring in religion, history, and even in space, its presence in pop culture is no different. But is it just a random number chosen by screenwriters and writers? Or is there something deeper behind? Let's start with cinema. Have you ever noticed how many films use a 40-day period as the central point of their narrative? In 40 Days and 40 Nights, 2002, the protagonist makes a vow of celibacy for exactly 40 days. In Noah, 2014, the biblical flood, one of the most significant events in the Bible, lasts, of course, 40 days and 40 nights. Even in horror and science fiction films like The Ring, the character receives a dark prediction. She has a set time left to live. How many days? That's right, 40. In books, the number 40 also appears as a recurring element. In 1001 Nights, there are stories where tests of endurance and trials last 40 days. And in modern literature, the number frequently shows up in challenges and missions that characters must complete to achieve redemption or transformation. In music, renowned bands and artists, from U2 to Jay-Z, reference the number 40 in their lyrics. U2's song 40, for instance, is based on Psalm 40 from the Bible, reinforcing the idea that this number carries strong and mysterious symbolism. But could this recurrence in pop culture happen just by chance? Or is there some hidden knowledge being passed through these narratives? Some theories suggest that secret societies and influential groups are aware of the power of the number 40 and use it intentionally. Let's dive into this darker side of history. If there's something that cannot be ignored, it's the fact that certain numbers seem to have a special significance within esoteric groups and secret societies. The number 40, of course, is no exception. Many conspiracy theorists believe that the number 40 is one of the codes used by groups like the Illuminati, Freemasonry, and other organizations that supposedly hold hidden knowledge. The reason? The number 40 is believed to be linked to cycles of renewal and transformation, used in rituals and events designed to mark global changes. For example, some claim that major economic crises, conflicts, and significant political shifts occur within 40-year cycles. Additionally, Masonic and occult symbols often carry numerical combinations that reference 40, whether in constructions, important dates, or even historical documents. The very structure of some power institutions seems to follow a 40-year pattern for strategic changes. Is it a coincidence or a calculated manipulation? But this isn't just about theories. Scientists are also beginning to notice curious patterns involving the number 40 in various fields of knowledge. Some researchers claim there is concrete evidence that this number may have unique properties. Modern science can give us some answers as to why the number 40 appears so often. And surprisingly, some studies show that this number has real implications in several fields. In biology, research indicates that certain animal and plant life cycles follow patterns of approximately 40 days. In studies on cellular regeneration, scientists have discovered that many human cells undergo complete renewal processes within periods close to 40 days. In psychological experiments, researchers have tested how the human brain reacts to 40-day challenges. The results are intriguing. Significant behavioral changes occur after this period, reinforcing the theory that 40 is directly linked to mental transformation. Additionally, studies in physics suggest that certain oscillations in complex systems, from weather patterns to seismic movements, follow cycles of 40 days or multiples of 40. Could this be a signature of the universe itself? Whether it's coincidence, a natural pattern, or a hidden code, the number 40 continues to challenge us. But in the end, what does all of this really mean? It's time to ask the most important question. After all we've explored, one question remains. Is the number 40 just a mathematical curiosity that repeats by chance? Or is there something greater behind it? Whether in religions, history, science, or even in pop culture, 40 appears repeatedly, almost like a code that permeates human existence. Its connection with transformation and cycles of renewal cannot be ignored. But what does this mean for? Some will say it's just a numerical coincidence, a natural tendency of the human mind to find patterns where they don't exist. Others believe that this number holds a deep secret, known by ancient civilizations, and used even today by those who understand its true power. Thank you for watching this far. Don't forget to subscribe to keep receiving more amazing content like this.